Well, good morning everybody. We're a little bit wet here this morning at Djuma Game Reserve. My name is Mark. Welcome to our morning safari. Viam is with me on camera. Alex is in final control. And Brian and Scott are elsewhere at the moment, under cover. We've had one of these grey days, the grey morning rather, with waves of rain coming in. It seems to have slowed down a little bit now. So for the time being, we're going to just wait and see what it's going to do. We're under our little cover on quarantine open area. Hopefully we might get something coming by. I believe there were some hyena running across the dam. They might have even been coming up this way. It'll be quite a nice thing if we have some hyena again. And so for the time being, we're going to just chat to you, and maybe we're going to get a few questions and answers coming in. And maybe if we're lucky, you'll see something moving about. So do join us. I'm hoping that it'll lift. Unfortunately, this kind of grey weather does tend to hang around a bit. It switches on and off the rain during the morning, and we will have to see what transpires. With a little bit of luck, actually, the sun might burn it open maybe later, and it might bode well for a good Sunday afternoon. Hope you're all having a really good weekend wherever you are on the planet, and happy Sunday. Sunday fun day. A wet Sunday for us. Got a little bit wet coming in from Manuleti this morning. Saw a hyena up on Uyatela Access Road heading down towards the bottom end of Uyatela Camp. So there might have been something happening. It would be interesting if any of you, or the Zoomies who might have been on camera the last couple of hours, if there's been any sounds, any particular noises that I might be interested in. But of course, most important, noises of hyena cackling or noises of hyena with maybe something else, fighting something else. There was also talk on the radio earlier of a leopard that might be around our remain somewhere. And I'll try and keep my ear open for that. But for now, we are already quite wet. That's could be our quarry, could be something coming in towards Treehouse Dam. I think that might be one of the leopards, actually. So do send in questions and maybe something to talk about. The email address questions@wildearth.tv, or hashtag Safari Live if you'd rather tweet. Alex will push it through to me via the radio. Not the ideal, but this is best we can do for now. We're also hoping that it'll clear for a fireside chat this evening, but that also depends on the amount of rain we have today, because if conditions persist like this, we might have to postpone our fireside chat once again. That's 2 Sundays ago, I think, we had the rain. Oh, there's a question I can put that's from Carol in Santa Monica that I can put through to all of you out there, those of you who are Zoomies and those of you who've been watching Djuma Dam Cam. Carol in Santa Monica wanted to know if there are still 7 goslings at the dam. I haven't been down to the dam for a number of days, or rather, let's put it this way, I haven't looked for the goslings for a couple of days, so I can't really answer that truthfully. I don't know, but it will be something that as soon as we do get a chance to go out, if this holds, it looks like it might. If it does, then maybe Scott will go out and we can hand it over to him and then make our way down to the dam or something. I wanted to head that way anyway, because with the amount of hyena activity around the dam, I want to go and check out an old den site that was just on the other side of Djuma Dam or Djuma Waterhole, Gowrie Dam. Up on Mvubu Road, there used to be a hyena den there, and with the hyena that we saw this morning running towards, more or less in that direction, and a couple of hyena that evidently Karen said were running across the dam wall this morning, this hyena activity that's close to camp could have something to do with the fact that they're using that den, unless of course there's been some activity around the dam during the night, in which case that would account for the hyena's presence. Hence my question: did anybody hear anything in the last few hours before dawn, our dawn? or at some stage during the night. I might have a question. Yeah, go ahead. Question coming in. Morning, Beth. Beth in Boston was reading an article about the Masai Mara and some guide. I don't know, I'd like to maybe read it myself. It's very difficult to comment on something that I haven't read or to put it into context, Beth. But Beth was saying that somebody posted something about wildebeest having very poor eyesight, wanting to know if this is true. I think it would be very hard to quantify. It would be very hard to be able to really establish how good or how bad a wildebeest's eyesight is. I think it's like so many things. We can only assume based on our observations, but unless we actually look through the eyes of a wildebeest, we won't really know, and that's never going to happen. So it's not something that I can answer really, Beth, because I can't believe how I don't know how anybody can verify that, whether a wildebeest. It might just be that their focal point is very close to them. I don't know. They supposedly have. I can't answer that. It's one of those impossible questions. That how do we know what an animal sees? We can maybe make assumptions based on the construction of the eye, whether they're rods or cones, and how the eye basically is made up, and in some way try and extrapolate that, compare it to our eye. But it would be, I think it's a very difficult thing, and it's perhaps a little awkward of a statement to say they have poor vision when we don't really know what their vision is like. Vision is a very important thing, especially being a plains game animal. It would be important for an animal to be able to see things, because hearing out in the open plains is one thing, but they're going to need to recognize a predator from quite a distance. So I would imagine, just based on my knowledge of nature and the way I deduce things, or my observations, that an animal that lives out in the open plains surely has got to have relatively good eyesight. My personal opinion. But there's no way to know. There's no way, unless you can talk to a wildebeest and give them an eye test. I don't see how we can actually come to some sort of a conclusion. It looks like there's still another squall of rain coming in. Morning, Mark, in Salt Lake City. Mark wants to know what I think of having 2 cameras on drive. I think it's phenomenal. I think in terms of viewership, in terms of what you are watching, it's probably the best thing that we could ever do, because when we only have one vehicle out there, it's kind of difficult to maintain content, what we call content, to have animals on the screen all the time. Now, we all know what it's like watching television, and especially when we're watching wildlife programs on television. We watch edited programs that have been shot over months, if not sometimes years, and they're edited to give constant action so that it keeps your attention for the half hour or the hour that you're watching a wildlife documentary or a similar type of program. And when we're live, it's a completely different thing, because as you know, when we're live, we can drive around sometimes for hours and not see a single thing. And it can be heading south. Now, despite the fact that we do have a traversing area that's covered by safari vehicles that are often finding animals as well, what I mean by the advantage of the second vehicle is that we can switch cameras. We can switch over. When one vehicle doesn't have anything and the other vehicle does, we can keep the content live on the screen, and that's what keeps people's attention. I think there must be a whole or there must be dozens and dozens of viewers who might switch over to watch the stream, to look at the safari live, and find nothing happening, and within a minute or two they're bored, they don't understand the concept, they don't see any animals on the screen, and so they're likely to switch channels and go somewhere else. Even right now, the fact that we're not driving around, we might be losing viewers because we don't have anything to show you right now. But once we're out there, and once we have the two vehicles out there, the ability to be able to find an animal while one vehicle is watching an animal, so that we can switch from animal to animal and keep you entertained, I think that's a great idea. I'm all for it. I think it's been great. That's interesting. Joe Ellen wanting to know what books to read to be better prepared for a safari. I'm not too sure what sort of books you really mean, Joe Ellen. I don't know whether you mean sort of non-fiction books about safari, or whether you mean field guides, or biographical accounts. The thing is, you can't really read animal guides, although I suppose there's a book called, what is it called? It's written by Peter Apps, A-P-P-S, Peter Apps. It's about animal behavior. It's a fairly concise account of different animal behavior. Of course, the Estes, the Safari Companion, it's called Ebed Estes, I think. The Safari Companion is an interesting book because it gives you basics of animal behavior, basics of makeup of animal groups. I might have it here, I'm not sure. I must have a look. Let me just see if I can move my book box over. Oh. I've taken some books out, but it's still quite heavy. I've sort of culled some of the books out of the box because some I haven't been using, and it just makes it heavier. But despite that, there's still books that I wish I had in this box that I don't have in the box. So let me see. This is the book here. It's called The Safari Companion by Richard Estes. This is an older version. I think there is a new edition. This particular one, I bought this, when was this? 94. I bought this 20 years ago. So this particular edition is $1993, and I'm sure that there is a much more recent edition, but this would be a good one to give you basics on animal behavior. Obviously you need a bird book, because I think even if you're not really that much of a bird, if you are coming on safari, once you start seeing the birds that are out there, well, you kind of get hooked. I'm just trying to think what else. These are just all field guides, so you can buy. There are a couple of field guides that are collective field guides. You get a really nice one. I'm not too sure what it is called though. It's a sort of a field guide for everything. It gives trees, plants, even fish, cetaceans, which are the whales and things on the coast, all the mammals, the birds. So I guess it's a very basic introduction to almost everything in southern Africa, and I guess one would go further from there to try and glean a little bit more information from individual books rather than getting one book on every subject. I tend to prefer having a book for each subject. Just trying to think what else there could be other than just the field guides. I mean, what field guides to recommend would be the field guides that maybe are things that you're interested in. I've shown you many times before, the one field guide that I suppose to be good for safari is the mammal guide, and there are many. Collins publishes one. There are many different mammal guides. I tend to use Jonathan Kingdon because he is a great zoologist. Let me see, what does it say about Jonathan? Not much. 1150 African species of mammals. As far as biographies are concerned, I don't really know. I haven't really read many. I'm trying to think. I mean, everybody was speaking about Elephant Whisperers some time ago, but it doesn't give you any idea about safari. It doesn't prepare you for safari. Gosh, I'd have to think of it. I'd have to sort of put my mind to it. Right now, my mind is on sort of drive and trying to get through some questions, so I can't really think of any books off the top of my head. And I will. Something might come to me in the middle of another sentence on something else totally unrelated, and I might just sort of change subjects. So I can't really say offhand. So I'm just going to move this if it's not making a noise too much, but it's right there near my controls for my earpiece. So next question, and it looks like it is starting to hold up. Find out what. Sil, morning Sil, how are you doing? Wanting to know if I'd rather walk or drive. I much prefer walking safaris. I prefer being out on foot. One doesn't cover as much ground, you don't see the animals as much, but you also can't get close to animals on foot. I think a balance of both is important, because you miss out on so much being in the vehicle. But being in the vehicle, you can sit next to lion, you can have elephant approach the vehicle, you can have really close encounters with animals being on a vehicle. But being on foot, you having close encounters with all the much smaller things in life. You're able to see the lizards and the snakes and the flowers, and smell things, taste things, hear things a lot better. One is able to use all of your senses that you tend to lose being on a vehicle because of the noise of the vehicle and the sense of the vehicle. A little bit of what you make up on the swings you lose on the roundabouts, if you know what I mean. But personally, I've spent a lot of time with all these animals next to the vehicle. I've been doing this for a number of decades now, so for me, I'm just happy to be amongst all of these animals. I don't necessarily have to see them every day. And it's a great thrill for me to be on foot, knowing that they had walked there, especially when I'm able to walk in their footprints. And it's not really that important to see them, but to be in their world. I think this is the main thing. Obviously, when you're coming out on safari, you may be only coming to Africa once in your lifetime. It's a different matter entirely, because under those circumstances, you want to be able to see the things up close. You want to be able to get the most of your experience. And I would say most of your safari should be based on a vehicle or a boat, and with a few walking safaris to experience the walking safaris. I think that would be the important thing. Well, that's nice to know. MJ just saying that there are still 7 goslings still swimming in the dam when they do swim. You'll notice that they graze on the edges of the dam. Geese are grazers, but as soon as any danger is nearby, they'll take the goslings out onto the water, or even just adults will do that. So sometimes when you see the Egyptian geese on the water, there's a good chance that there might be a predator around, which is why, especially with goslings, that they'll take to water as soon as there's any threat. Going to listen to the other radio. Morning, Ellen. Ellen in Illinois. I think I know which Ellen this is. I was watching Franklin's the other day. Got a little confused with Franklin and guinea fowl, and what am I hearing? Ellen wanted to know if they're related. I guess in some ways, but I need to. Yeah, there's the book. Let me find out for you, Ellen. Let's have a look at families. I'm supposed to know all these things by heart, but you know, sometimes it's easier to look something up before my brain can come up with it. Partridges and francolins. This doesn't give me family much. No, this doesn't really give me the breakdown of bird families. I'd have to go to other books for that answer there, Ellen. To know whether they're related or not, one would have to look at what family they belong to. Well, here we go. Here are the families. Gannets, cormorants, bloody, blah. Num. Franklins, partridges, spurfowl, quails, peafowl. No, they're different families. So they're related in that they're birds, but in terms of their families, sorry, I missed what that was. Hopefully Scott's listening to the radio and he can keep up with what game viewing there is out there. I think we're going to go out. I'm starting to see it looking pretty clear. I think we can go out now. But francolins are the same family as sort of partridges and quails and peafowl, and the guinea fowl seem to be in a group entirely on their own, the Numididae, as opposed to the Phasianidae, pheasants family, which are the francolins and company. So let's see, we need to move not much. Let's go and see if we can go out. It's not looking like it's raining too heavily right now. And try and turn around. I think I'm going to need to put on something warm. A little bit chilly. But I think although look at that, some pretty heavy rain falling on the other side of the Mawati River. No, I can see it coming on quarantine already. Let's just give it a few more minutes, but I'm going to sit here. I prefer sitting in the vehicle because if any animals do come by and they see me standing up, I think so. Now sound better. Okay, with rain coming in, I also think standing next to the vehicle is likely to chase anything away, if there is anything going to come by, much like the last time we were sitting here and we had those hyenas that came in, and they almost came to us, and they wouldn't have been coming in towards us or coming close if we'd been standing outside the vehicle. So let's see what this weather is going to do. If it stays like this, oh, something was there. If it stays like this, you're not going to see it with the camera though. I think there was something moving close to Yuri's house. Excuse me. I need to find, I don't think my binoculars are here. No, I don't think so. Yes. Sorry, who's that from, Alex? Ellie's for me in Massachusetts. So Morning to you. Ellie's for me. No, Ellie's for you. Or for me. Ellie's for me wants to know if there are less giraffe in Kruger than there were 5 years ago. I haven't seen numbers, Ellie's for me. I have no idea. Can't answer that question because I don't know numbers. They do have annual game census or annual game counts for some of the larger mammals in Kruger. It's quite an important thing to have an idea of numbers. But I have no comment on that whatsoever because I simply don't know. I can't even make hazard a guess, or really I don't want to comment on something that I have no idea about to have an idea of numbers. I can't imagine why there would be less. There's no reason why there would be fewer giraffe than there were 5 years ago. I could only imagine that there must be more with the population increasing. So, sorry, that kind of questions, unless are just something that I have no idea about, I'm afraid. Hi Rita in Joburg. Referring to elephants in must, especially the larger bulls that come into must for up to 3 or more months at a time. Rita wants to know if there's any way to tell at what stage of their must period they're in. Perhaps. Personally, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, Rita, I'm afraid. I'm getting a lot of I don't knows this morning, so there are some interesting questions coming in because I don't know the answers to them. But no, I personally don't know, Rita. Maybe there are some people who have studied elephants that have some way of telling at what stage the must period is, whether it is the beginning or end or middle of being in must. I think, Rita, if I was able to see the same elephant every single day during its entire must period, and not only just one elephant, I would need to see numerous elephants over a period of time, every single day, watching them in must every day, to be able to tell whether that is possible. Whether one can do that in a zoo, if elephants come into must in a zoo, but I would say that those are confined circumstances, and one can't really extrapolate from that as far as wild elephants are concerned. But it's physically impossible to spend that much time with a single elephant, or any group of elephants for that matter, based on the amount of traveling that they do and the fact that they cross over into different properties, and I'm very restricted in my movement, especially at home. I have a tiny little footprint of area that I can follow animals, and sometimes I might only have elephants for 5 minutes and they move on to neighboring properties. Sometimes they'll be there for maybe only a day. So to get that kind of information, one would need to do an in-depth study, be with elephants every single day during their must period, and try and mark or try and record various things that you might see that might indicate whether they're coming into or coming out of, or whether they're in their deep must. Personally, I haven't any clue, I'm afraid. Cindy, morning Cindy. Cindy wanted to know if there are any animals here in Africa that are equipped with antlers rather than horns. No, antlers only belong to the New World deer. There are up in North Africa, there are deer that I think roe deer. There are deer up in North Africa, but based on the fact that there might have been a land bridge once between North Africa and Europe, or somehow deer have found their way into northern parts of North Africa. As far as I know, I think if I have a look at my mammal books, I've closed everything up. I wonder, now it's looking clear again. Let's kill this mic, go back to my presenter mic.
It's already been switched.
Sorry, oh, this is not on?
No.
Okay, so let's go and see. If we have to come back, we have to come back, but I'd rather drive around if it's not really drizzling too hard. There is more rain coming, I can see it. So we're not going to go far, maybe we'll go down to Gowrie Dam or something. Anything better than sitting under there, which we can't really help. Trying to reacquaint myself with things back in the jigger. This is the jigger, by the way. I'm trying to reacquaint myself with where everything is in the jigger. It's different to Wendy. Right, let's see what we can try and do this morning. Very heavy rain falling over Buffelshoek at the moment. And there's a little bit of light coming through, so it is lifting, but I'm looking at very heavy rain falling over the southeast as well. That would be other parts of the Fasabi Sand, Chitwa, maybe Elephant Plains, or rather Cheetah Plains. Cheetah Cut Line is still very wet. There's still rain up in the eastern part of Djuma. It's just right here, right now. There's even a patch of blue sky. Alex, if you can ask Scott for an update of maybe if he can get an update from the guys what's happening this morning. So what I did see actually from our shelter was some impala moving about. Hello Valerie. Looks like there's a lot of activity around the camera at the moment. The buffalo weavers making a noise. Hardy-dars. Valerie's asking a question I get all the time. It's a very frequently asked question, and it's a question that doesn't have an answer. It's one of the standard "it depends" answers. But Valerie was asking, well, out on walking safaris, what procedure do you follow? What do you do when you encounter something like a lion or an elephant or a hippo out of water? Valerie, there's no standard answer to that, unfortunately, and very much depends on so many different factors. There are dozens and dozens of different things that could determine how you react and what you do. Most of the time you don't do anything. Most of the time you just watch the animal. You keep your distance and you maintain as low a profile as possible. Morning, Hardy-dars. They're gonna fly and make a noise any minute now. Why they make so much noise? Because they're scared of heights. Nine of them. I think there must be a few youngsters here too. That's a youngster left in the tree. Sorry, hardy dolls, didn't mean to frighten you so much. I think one of the ways that I can try and explain it better in terms of how one reacts, it's very similar. Look, there go all the goslings. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. As I say, as soon as there's danger, they take the goslings out on. Talking about an ingwe somewhere. So one of the things that I would sort of counter to that question, and it's sort of one of the things that I do often when I'm asked that question, and something that you can relate to, is let's say you have a flat while you're driving. What do you do? And it's a very similar thing, because it depends on so many factors. How you react to a blowout when you're driving. Dirt road, or is it a tarred road? Factors that your brain has to calculate to be able to react in the right way that's as bad as it can be if you react the wrong way. Happening at the time. Is an animal going to chase, or rather charge you, or is the animal going to get up and run away? Is the animal going to ignore you? What is the mood of the animal of the day? How close are you? How many people are you with? What is the terrain like? What are your options? There are a bunch of different things that you have to take into account at the moment. Marula tree. It was a gall that is mostly broken. Kingfishers are very busy with children. Sadly, that marula tree has been ring barked, so either going to get a lot more holes, or a lot of those branches are going to start falling down in the next couple of years. Just to conclude, okay, alright, thanks Alex. Yeah, just to conclude, I'd love to be able to give you some idea. Generally speaking, and I've spent many hours, I've spent thousands of hours on foot in Botswana, in Zambia, in Kenya and in Tanzania, and a number of national parks in Tanzania and a couple of places in Kenya, and I've been on foot here in the south. Many encounters, and I can't ever Any of the situations that I've been in, when it's been a little bit tricky with lion or leopard or elephant, that it's ever been the same, that you can sort of write a memo to say, well, if an elephant does this, you must do that. Generally speaking, though, one doesn't turn around and run away from wild animals, because there's nothing that we can outrun. Every single animal here can run faster than us. We've only got 2 legs, and we're pretty clumsy at that on our 2 legs. Of course, the one thing that you have to remember is you only have to run faster than the next person. But it's very bad to do so. And walking with guests out in the bush is not knowing how people are going to react. It's one thing to be able to understand animal body language and to be able to know what to do in a sticky situation. But it's the very people that you are walking with that are the biggest danger and the biggest threat to everybody's safety. Because if you are charged by something and one of the party, just one person reacts the wrong way, it could put everybody in danger. So I think that for me is one of the trickiest things. Look here, we're seeing this foam nest starting to drip through to the pond. Unfortunately, the pond is not underneath the foam nest. I'm wondering how those tadpoles are actually making it into the water. They need a bit of rain to help wash them in to the pond. The thing is that guiding nowadays, to be out on foot, it's completely different to the way it's been in my past. Nowadays you're actually walking with 2 guys. Both of them have rifle, first rifle and second rifle. So you've got one person walking in front who's the first rifle, and then you've got somebody who's still sort of in training that will walk as backup as the second rifle, with the guest in between. I have walked with a dual rifle scenario, but that's because when I walk in national parks in East Africa, I'm compelled to walk with one of the national park rangers. They have to be with me to make sure that I don't do anything wrong. I can say, knock on wood, I'm very lucky not to have had to discharge a firearm, except for one time back in the mid-80s, late 80s. And I was still very, very new to the whole thing. Just in here is an old hyena den that I want to see if we can get to. These little flies. Let's see if this den, if I can find it. I think it's underneath that tree up there. It was always a little bit difficult to get into it, get close to it. And it's overgrown in the last few years. I need a guarri branch. Got tiny little flies that tickle the face. Copy that. No, it's not this far in. It's definitely not this deep. I need a guarri branch. Never a guarri when you need it. I think it's there. there's the termite mound under that boerbean. I'm a little bit off, but that's because it's grown so much since. Tracks, yeah, ball. Aloha to Hawaii, Rick and Susie. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to identify that mushroom, and I haven't been able to see whether this den is still being used. I don't think it is. Rick, Susie, I do need to spend a bit more time. I was trying to I need to also maybe contact some people that I can ask, somebody who might know. I'm not too sure who to even ask just yet. Maybe a friend of mine who studied elephants for her PhD, maybe she knows, because she may have recorded elephants eating these mushrooms before. I can't say that I've ever seen them, because we don't get this kind of rainfall, we don't have this kind of vegetation just north of here in the Timbabati. It might be fairly close, but we just don't have the rainfall here, so it's not as moist. Not likely to get this kind of mushrooms growing under the marula trees up there. Different type of ground cover entirely because of the difference in rainfall. Go away, birds. I'm not sure where Scott is, but we're going to cross over to Scott shortly and see what he's up to, and we'll see you.
Welcome to Zanele. We got off to a bit of a delayed start today for two reasons. We're waiting for the rain to subside, and there was only enough space for Mark under the little tarpaulin on quarantine clearings. And then we also discovered that one of the shocks had bumped out of place on the back right tire, so we needed to jack the tire up and get that shock back into the correct position. And we are now heading towards Arathusa. Myself and Brian haven't been across there for a while, so I thought we'd change the scenery. And as you who may be a regular viewer, or those of you who are the regular viewers will know, we could bump into anything along the way at any given point. And for any of those of you who may be newcomers, welcome on board, and welcome on board. But thankfully that was a short one. I've just seen a bird of prey sitting in a marula tree, and I just want to establish exactly what it is. It's quite far away, and Brian, I'm not sure if you can see it perched there, and even if you can, I'm not sure how good your angle will be. I just want to establish what it is. I'm hoping it might be an owl, in which case we'll try and get a bit closer. Oh, just need to reverse it a tiny bit more back. No, it looks like a tawny eagle. We'll bear that in mind, that there is this bird of prey sitting in a tree. It may be waiting for a predator of sorts to be finishing off a kill, but it doesn't necessarily mean just because that there's a bird of prey and one that eats carrion that one will find a kill. But it is certainly worth slowing down and investigating closely. So I'm just scanning all of the other trees in the area. That it may not necessarily be sitting in the same tree, and it often won't be sitting in the same tree or necessarily very close to where the kill is. No, I think that raptor could simply be resting now and waiting for the day to hopefully heat up, and when it is hot it becomes a lot easier for them to fly and they use a lot less energy. So on cooler mornings like this, it's not uncommon to see a lot of the raptors still perched in the trees until it warms up. Although the fact that I've just seen another one here now, what is it? Because also the species of raptor makes a big difference that you're seeing, because certain raptors will hunt for themselves and others will be meat eaters, sorry, carrion eaters rather than killing for themselves. That looks like a Wahlberg's eagle, not one typically associated with kills. Sadly, I've got no monitor, so I've got only a vague idea of how good of a view you're getting. So please bear that in mind, that I can't actually see what Brian can see. Okay. this weather stays like this, we're in for a great morning. It's always mixed emotions when it's cloudy because we do love the cooler weather. After some serious hot days out here, a cool cloudy day is a welcome relief. However, if those clouds bring rain, then it's a different story, because then broadcasting becomes a nightmare. So at least though today, things are looking good. I'm just going to take this road up here and see where it leads us. There are some leopard tracks that I've just seen here. Just going to have a closer look to make sure. Okay. There's a pair of leopard tracks that look to be female leopard tracks that head up here, and I've just seen a vehicle, so I'm wondering if we're not even in a sighting here. My radio hasn't been working too well, the game drive channel, so anyway, I'll be able to ask this vehicle, which is good. Aubrey for Scots. Well, I'm fairly convinced there's a sighting in here, so I'm just going to drive on in and see what happens, because I've just seen the game viewer coming out of this bush. And they would typically only be off-road if there was a sighting, so... And would you believe it, there's a leopard up a tree. Wonderful. Beautiful, we have hit the jackpot. Morning. How are you doing? Sorry, my radio is not working too well, so I literally just saw Aubrey coming in out of the block and presumed there must be something here. Oh, really? Oh, cool. Okay. No, I had no idea. Beautiful, look at this, folks. Look at this. Well, considering that we had no idea what we were coming to see, we have got exceptionally lucky here. I'm not sure who this is. No, not at all. It looks to be like a young male. Looks like maybe quarantine, but I could be wrong, and I'm sure one of you will be able to provide us with an ID shortly. Let me have a closer look at the spot pattern. Oh, here it comes down. Beautiful. So yes, certainly a young male, and I'm guessing it is quarantine, judging from the spot pattern along his whiskers. Well, apologies folks for my lack of comms as we arrived at the sighting, but thankfully when there's a leopard in shot there's not much I can say that does these animals more justice than themselves. And what is great is that he looks very hungry. It's overcast weather and we are in the lucky position to be following him, so food is definitely going to be on his mind. Sorry, Brian. And we're about to have a really beautiful view of him here. He's just crept up onto a termite mound. Wow, look at this. Look at this. Beautiful. Brian's going to battle to frame him now because he's just a meter or so in front of the hood of the vehicle. And isn't this great, folks? Get my head out the way as he continues to stalk forward. He's very alert, moving a few meters, checking for any potential prey, and then continuing. Yeah, he's heading north into Djuma from Little Main Junction. Again, folks, as I was saying, he stops every few meters to make sure he doesn't blow any potential opportunities to catch prey. He could move miles potentially before coming across potential prey, so he doesn't want to blow any opportunities, and that's why he'll stop every few meters just to assess and make sure not only that there's not potential prey but that there's not any potential threats. They will certainly have lion and other leopard in mind when patrolling. What a beautiful shot that must be, seeing him walk down the road. We are going to continue to follow him, don't you worry. But we'll take turns with the other vehicle that's in the sighting, so we managed to sneak ahead earlier and we actually were in the best position as it started to come down the tree there, so we got very lucky. One concern of mine is that this area that he is moving through is very thick, so we've just got to hope that he stays on the road for us, otherwise things are going to get tricky with regards to staying with him. Questions just come through from Kristen on Twitter. Morning, Kristen, and welcome on board. Kristen's asking whether all leopards have the same or different spot patterns, and just like humans have different fingerprints, leopards all have different spot patterns, so they are all individual in their own way. And you could compare any parts of an individual leopard with another and you'll find differences, but usually one looks at the head and certain spots on the head, especially the ones around the whisker marks, the whisker lines that you see coming out. And hopefully if he does stop, and Yeah. Cool. Thanks very much. So now it's our turn to scoot ahead. Sorry folks, radio game drive channel's going crazy. There's some very good news. Another animal has been found that will be of interest to all of us, and I'm sure Mark will be heading across there. And that way we can bounce between the two sightings. Copy that, Mark. Good stuff. Let the viewers know that there's potential excitement on the way. Copy. Perfect. So that's great. Mark also received that radio update, and he's not very close to where he needs to go, but he will continue to make his way there. And in the meantime, we'll stay with this beautiful animal and watch him try and secure a meal. If you look at his stomach, you'll notice that there's quite a deep indentation, and there's room for lots of food in there. So he is also sniffing around a lot, and that won't necessarily be for prey. It could be the sense of another leopard that's walked down this road, possibly his mother or his brother. Okay. He's certainly very alert, and I keep saying that, but you can see that from his body language. Now, whether it's because potentially another leopard has walked here, I'm not sure, but you can see the way he's sniffing around. He's certainly very interested in the smells he's picking up, not necessarily the sights or sounds at this stage, but that could well change. Beautiful. Thankfully, the direction he's veered off in is a little bit more open, and it'll be easier for us to follow him there than if he had headed right off the road. Ooh, I wonder if he's going to head up this termite mound. There's a beautiful big termite mound here. That will be incredible to see him come up. I'm not sure if he will though. Where to go, where to position ourselves. We'll try here. We might get lucky. Yeah, here he comes. You'll start to see his head just poking up over the grass. And that look of intent right there, folks, is absolutely magical.
Guys, he knows what's going on here. He's just being a demon.
It really would be wonderful to know how much more he can hear than us. You can see his ears twitching from side to side, and also just the direction of his head, indicating that there are certain noises that he's picking up on. But what they are exactly, we are yet to know. We've got a question that's just come through from Kim in San Diego. Morning, Kim. Welcome on board. Now, Kim is asking how much longer quarantine will be in this area where he grew up before being kicked out by his mother or father. And in all likelihood, it would be his father or another dominant male in this area that forces him out. His mother's done her part in trying to get rid of him and his brother. He does have a brother, this leopard, who's also the same age. Obviously, they were born at the same time, about 2 years ago. And any time from now, we could expect them to start drifting off, but when exactly depends on a lot, probably directly with their father, who may start becoming impatient with them still in his territory. But any time from now, we could expect them to be moving off. Good question though, and thank you for asking that. It may not be too much longer that we do get to view these animals here on Djuma, but impossible to tell how long exactly they will be tolerated here. Afshen of all. Kona. I was just greeting one of the trackers, or the tracker on the game viewer next to us, and he said in the local language that we've got a very nice small car that can maneuver through the bushes, and he is certainly right. Where this leopard's going now is going to be a good place for us to follow, but not really for the longer game viewer. Oh, and we have a buffalo carcass here that we are passing by. We won't spend too long here. Ooh, sorry, nearly gave Brian a slap there with a branch. But there are some remains of a buffalo cow here that we will just scan to briefly to give you a quick look, but I don't want to spend too much time not on the hot trail of this leopard, so just for interest sakes we'll give you that quick shot. But sadly we do need to keep on the tail of this leopard, which I've already lost focus of, and we're all good. We've got him here, he's on the right hand side of the vehicle. It's very thick, so Brian is going to battle to stay on him, but at least we've got a visual of him, and we will continue with him for as long as we possibly can. I wonder if this tree is going to entice him up. There's a beautiful marula here that he may go up again to get a vantage point, possibly to relax, but worth us just waiting here in case he does. No. There's another little termite mound here that he may go up and provide us with another great view, but it's not an easy one. But we can have a good side shot. Have you got a shot there, Brian, or do you want to catch a bit? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Pretty cool, eh?
Awesome. Try and make some space for this other vehicle. I don't know how we're going to do this. It's tricky when following animals through thick bush to not get in their way, and also to allow the other game viewers to have a decent look at what's going on. But I think I may have spotted a potential little route where we can sneak through, and that will also get ahead of the leopard, which will allow us the best view, and that is from the front. You still have a visual of him. He is still heading parallel to us, and you may get a few glimpses of him from here. Again, folks, I'm just going to reiterate that I don't have my monitor, so it's difficult for me to narrate relative to exactly what Brian is showing you. But what I'm guessing is that you're seeing a very well camouflaged leopard. Cool. Shame the other game viewers really battling through this thick vegetation. You might be able to hear it arriving after we've been stationary for quite some time. Very intently sniffing about here. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know exactly what it was that he is smelling? But for now, we can just enjoy this interesting leopard behavior. And these animals are typically so shy and elusive for us to be able to view them at this proximity, going on with their daily business unaltered, is a huge privilege and something that I thoroughly enjoy. It's taken close on 50 years to get all of the leopards in the Sabi Sands to this level of habituation, and we are now thoroughly enjoying the rewards of these relaxed leopards. Going back now, it looks like, in the direction he's just come from. Again, sniffing very intently. We may see him grimace and curl up his front lip, and this does allow animals like leopard and lion to pick up their scent that they're smelling better. There's a scent processing organ called the Jacobson's organ in the upper lip, and they often flare that open or open up their top lip when processing the scent, especially of other leopard. What has he seen here? He is very excited about something. So, I'm looking ahead but cannot see anything. But that little change in body language did tell a story. And maybe there is something up ahead that he intends on hunting. Has he gone?
Still there.
Okay. Well, okay, good. Well, not coming out since a little bit of a clearing, it appears. I don't know where exactly I am. Oh, no, I do, I think. Well, we're on a road. And that's a good sign, but which road exactly? I can't tell at this stage. Where has he gone? Yeah, I can't see him at the moment, but cut across to Mark. I'm happy for that, and we can come back to me later. Folks, I think it would be worth cutting across to Mark to see what he has found. He does have a good sighting, so we'll just give you this last little view of quarantine, but I think it's important to get across to Mark quickly, so in the next few seconds you'll be heading across to Mark.
Welcome everybody. We were the very
Welcome back, folks. Sorry, folks, I'm great pity that Mark lost reception where he was. So yeah, back to us, but he might regain visual or regain signal, hopefully. and then take it from there. Okay. So, oh, this is looking tricky.
Playful than he was angry. His tail was thrashing a little bit. He was hissing at Aubrey as well. Aubrey found him earlier. There is an important that for a change we've actually got both cats, both brothers on camera. And I was asked this morning, Mark, I can't remember when Mark got asked.
Welcome back, folks. It is very thick here, but we are going to try and stay with them for as long as possible. Who knows what he is going to take us towards or show us. Okay, he is heading straight towards us now, and he may go up this marula tree, so I just want to try and get into position before he does, which would be here. And he is just approaching from our left hand side, and with a bit of luck he'll show us the incredible ability to climb trees. Oh, it looks like a good one for him to climb, so get ready for action. I could be wrong, but I'm hoping he is going to go up this tree. No, straight past it. But what he is going to do, ooh, maybe not. He's just stopped to look up the tree. Another termite mound he's decided to use as a vantage point. Not a very high one. Just going to try and get around there. Will he go up this log? This will be beautiful. Ah, look at that. How's your angle there, Brian?
That's not bad.
Good. Please go further along that branch. Beautiful, look at this. Absolutely spoiled with different poses this morning. He's been doing them all, up the termite mounds, down trees, up this log, fallen down marula. And he continues, which is great. Okay. I'm just going to give the game drivers a quick update on his movements, if you don't mind, so bear with me for a second. Okay, have you still got them there, Brian?
Yeah.
Straight ahead.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Okay, good. Things are looking great here, folks.
Well, welcome. Yeah, he's in the drainage line. We've been following him from where we. And I can hear the odd squirrels shouting. I don't know where he is in the drainage line. Hope we can get another view of him, or maybe if we're lucky in time, we'll be able to get him actually on the dam. It's not easy to maneuver here, very, very thick. I do recall being in here with Mishu and Nduna and Karula. Maybe we just need to go and wait at Treehouse Dam if we can get ourselves out of here. Take up from little dense patch of bush veld. I think our best bet would be to maybe just go and stay at Treehouse Dam. I think there might be some buffalo there. And easier said than done. Easier one. I can hear birds. I think he's already ahead of us. It's taking me a long time to move. He's just walking in a straight line. Occasionally. So hopefully we'll be lucky and we might see him again. Other alternative is that he just doesn't want to be seen, so he's going to find a nice deep spot in this drainage line where the vehicles are not going to be able to find him, and he's going to sleep it off or sleep for part of the day. But at least we know where his kill is, and there's always a possibility that this afternoon we'll be able to go back to that tree and maybe he'll be back on his kill. Not really likely if it warms up and the sun comes out. We might leave it for later this evening and spend the day sleeping. But I'm counting on him being maybe being a little thirsty. So I don't want to be on the damn wall. We do want to be able to see him if he does come out, so maybe we'll cross over onto the other side and look back from the other side. Hippos here, that's interesting. Big hippo. Well, leopards are also famous for being able to pretend they're walking in one direction and then they just suddenly turn around, and when you least expect it, they suddenly disappear. No, not here yet. Maybe we'll take a little ride down this arm. spot the spots. An exciting Sunday morning for us. These leopards. There he is. How's that for a guess? Just a random little spot that I chose over here there. But if we're going to see him or not is a different story. And I don't want to push him, I don't want to see him.
Yep. I'd be glad if you found him.
There we go. Andrew coming? You still nearby? Okay, if you come down the northern side from Treehouse Dam, I've got him in the Skovanin now. Biologically, it was one of the wildest guesses that I took. And go ahead, David. At the moment it's probably only sort of a 1 or 2 vehicle lock. It's very difficult to see him, but if you make your way here, we'll see if we can make space for you. Yeah, when you come up from Gary Main on Weaver's Nest and the northern road that goes up to Franklin. He's hissing at the Franklin. You can see his.
Quarantine has decided to lie down, and he's been here for about 10 minutes. But literally, as you cut across to us now, the sunlight has just come out for the first time, and I think that may possibly cause him to move into a more shady area. But time will tell. For now though, he's just having a breather. And I'm so happy that you got to see Kunyuma, his brother, with Mark. Really, really fantastic to see two brothers on the same drive. a question that's just come through from Kelsey in Georgia. Good morning, Kelsey, and welcome on board with us. Kelsey's asking whether Quarantine and Kunyuma, the two brothers, will know one another, and they certainly will. She also asked what their behavior would be towards one another, and that would be very interesting, and sadly I've never seen them together, so I don't know how they would act. I think a lot would depend if there was food in the area, and there's no doubt that one of them will be more dominant than the other, but I have yet to see them together, and I really hope I do get to at some stage. Oh, is the heat getting too much for him? Oh, beautiful. So, the little yawn we just saw him do is a sign that he may well get up and mobile soon, so that's something for us to look forward to. Absolutely beautiful. Again, the sniffing continues. And I wonder if he's not following the scent trail of another leopard, possibly his mother, hoping to find her with food. That is something that these two brothers have been doing, is relying a lot on Karula, their mother, for kills. So that could be a place, Kelsey, where we could see them all join up. And wouldn't that be great, seeing the reaction of their mother towards them? And she'll be getting to a point now where she doesn't want them really to be hanging around stealing her food. So her behavior will be very interesting to them, as well as just the two of them towards one another. It's really beautiful with all these grass seeds in and around it, so I'm really enjoying the scene. What will his next move though be? I wonder. He is looking towards quarantine clearings. They're not close by, probably a mile or so from here, but it has been the general direction of his movement today. Just going to reposition the vehicle slightly and try and get a little bit further in front of him in order to get a better view. We all good? Yeah. Okay. So, as I was saying, folks, hugely happy that you got to view the two leopards today, and that doesn't happen often, so we should really be grateful for this. we've got fortunate here in that other vehicles were hesitant to come through into this thick block that our vehicle can manage to maneuver through, so we've got no other vehicles here, but I'm hoping that he does pop out into a place where we can call the other vehicles so they can also come and enjoy the sighting with us. But for now, we have got the beauty of the sighting all to ourselves. How long it will continue for, I'm not sure, because I've never been off-road in this area, but what I can tell you, from where we are now, it is appearing very thick. But as long as we can keep an eye on him, even if we have to do big loops around, we may still be able to stay in close enough proximity to him to know his movements and therefore stay with them. And it won't be long before other vehicles will be able to join us, so I'm going to let them know. Which way to? Oh, sorry. There's a little bush tickling Brian's ear there, distracting him from his job. Stations, quarantine's going to pop out very close to the inside door.
Welcome back. We are sitting at Treehouse Dam. I don't think he's going to be coming this way. I think he's still sitting where we sort of left him. It's pretty deep in there. One of the other landowners from a neighbouring property said that he's still sitting amongst rocks, but it's very low down, and while I'd love to go and sit there, we don't have signal from down below this dam wall. So I can only hope that maybe he's going to come up and eventually drink, but who knows. You know, at the moment it looks like he's content to just lie down peacefully somewhere, which is what he was doing, and I think our presence made him move on, and then he lay down again, and then finding him again, he got up and he's moved. Listen. He's still lying down, so maybe we should just carry on, do a little bit of a drive. I believe Scott is still with. Hang on. Is that a hippo? So I was thinking, you know, yeah. I didn't get the beginning of that. Oh, okay. Do I think that it's only Karula's territory that quarantine male and Kunyuma will be hunting? Or will they hunt in other leopards' territories as well? It'll most likely only be Karula's territory. Raisa, this is from Raisa in Finland. It is most likely only really Karula's territory. They're both still young males. They can't chance an encounter with another adult leopard, even if it is another female. unrelated to them, they will still get quite a hiding, quite a beating. So for them, the safest place is within Karula's territory, or family territory, Mbula's territory even. But once again, a question that is unanswerable to some extent. I don't know how far they go on to other properties. I don't know what the extent of the ranges are. We're not going to lose you now, but when they're not on Western Gari, when they're not on Djuma, I don't know how far they extend, and I don't know the other leopards' territories. So as much as I'd love to answer that question and be satisfied with the answer, I'm not satisfied because I don't know where they go on neighbouring farms or other neighbouring properties. And that will answer the question, I guess, if one knows the extent to which they move around. It's a question that is sure. It's like some of the questions I had this morning. I'd like to answer it, but I can't answer it because there's no way to answer it without being able to be with them every day and know their every move. So the behavioural thing, I can only comment on what I can imagine. I can't imagine that they will be. Look, there's a brown-headed kingfisher. Arathusa. We see so many of the woodlands now, and the woodlands tend to suppress the brown-hooded kingfishers in the summer months. Back in the dry season, we'll be seeing a lot more of the brown-hooded kingfishers. So, quarantine now at the old hyena den site of Dorries Road. Look, we're getting some sunshine. I'm going to do a big loop and then come back to Treehouse Dam and go back to see if we can find again. Our best bet for now. Very humble. I think if you had a radio tracking collar on a leopard, like one of these young, you couldn't. The problem is that you can't collar a young leopard. So This is just a theoretical. If one had a tracking device on a leopard, or one can track a leopard's movements daily to see where it moves, and then you could overlay that on the known territories of adult leopards. But even then, you would need to know the territorial boundaries of all the different female and male leopards in the immediate area. The thing is that a leopard like this, as I said, isn't really likely to go into another leopard's territory because of, well, especially for fear of being caught and killed. But then you would only find an answer for that particular leopard that you're with at that time, because there must be, of all the thousands of leopards in Africa, there must be cubs that have moved into other leopards' territories, and there are cubs that have stayed in their mother's territories while they're still young. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is not something that you can draw a line and say that this is what a young leopard does, and that goes for every young leopard that is born anywhere in Africa, or even Middle East and Asia for that matter. While there are guidelines as to how things behave, that's all they really are. They are guidelines. They are merely sort of more or less things. They can't really make quantitative statements. If we think of what Mission and Djuma would used to do, they're the best comparison because they were two boys, and I suppose we could even compare them to Shadow and Mzana, or rather Tundi and Shadow. Well, the other two, Karula's first two, whatever their names were, it gets so confusing for me. Only now because I'm thinking about anything about but it's two young males, and I would imagine young males and how they operate as adults. I think pretty much Mission and Djuma stayed within Karula's territory, but we wouldn't have ever known. Would never have really known had they ventured out of her territory and hunted on a neighbouring land. And what is to say they're going to do? And there are some similarities, and they're certainly moving in the same areas. I don't say they're doing similar things, but they seem to be predominantly in an area where Mission and Djuma used to spend their time, which is mostly here on Western Gowrie. Squeak. I didn't even get a chance to have a look at that impala. We might check where the kill is. How much is there? You get an idea whether he is likely to go back there or not. If he has to catch something now, whether it's Daiko or impala, to go back to the old. Feed on his new kill and not even bother to go back to the old one. With a frank stuttering. That's nonsense from him. Lost the light now. We started off, he was underneath the bush over here and he was getting a little testy with us. There's quite a lot been eaten, there's not very much left of this impala. My guess is that we must have missed it yesterday because he must have been on this yesterday. Most of the hindquarters have been eaten. Most of the spine, there's more than a night's worth of feeding. There's at least 2 days worth of feeding on this carcass. And I think it was yesterday I was saying it's time to see a leopard in a tree. I think it was yesterday. I don't know, maybe you don't remember, but I was saying within the last 24 hours or so how nice it would be to find a leopard with a carcass in a tree, or just a leopard in a tree for that matter. So we don't want to dwell too much on a carcass, but as you can see, very neatly draped over this perfect branch in a marula tree, almost as though this tree grew for leopards to be able to do that. Well, let's continue. Let's find some. Yeah, I'm smelling it too. This carcass has been here for at least 2 days now. Strange how it can be seen from the road, but only just. How we must have missed it. Can't remember whether we drove here yesterday or near here. I'm trying to think. We did. We actually found his tracks yesterday on this road, if I'm not mistaken. And just for the ladies for today, Sunday morning, beautiful yellow of the rounding teak flowers. If we can, not that great delight with the grey cloud behind it, but they really are pretty flowers. When you get very large teaks when the tree is in full bloom, that's very, very impressive. Pity, because Scott is with quarantine male who's lying up on a termite mound, I think, and unfortunately for some reason there's no signal from Wendy. Some air movement. Why aren't any of the raptors or any of the birds of prey eating or killing the tree? Well, maybe because they haven't found. One thing is because this morning has been pretty wet and not many raptors crashes and things this morning. System crashes, softwares. There are certain birds that will find it. Now, a vulture cannot really feed in a tree. Vultures find it very difficult to feed in a tree. Maybe a blue vulture, but not like. Only two. Yeah. Around it. And quite often you will find Bateleur and tawny eagles sitting in trees near a leopard, because they're the ones that are able to actually get to it. One of the reasons why the way an eagle can grip. Vultures generally can't carry things in their talons. They can only carry things in their crop. So it's a little bit stand in a tree and feed at the same time. It's almost impossible for them to do that. The reason why I guess we haven't seen is because I'm not sure whether there was anyone there yesterday, because it is somewhat visible. It would be visible, especially this. The Bateleur that flies at a fairly low altitude would be able to see under that canopy, the tree canopy. guess it's a matter of time. And also, as you know, our birds here in Africa don't have a scent. There is a little bit of a scent coming off that carcass. I'm quite intrigued why hyena haven't picked up the scent. You know, hyena tracks here. We're not too far. I mean, it's just up there on Weave. But I doubt whether if the wind is going wrong that this particular hyena would have picked up the scent. They are. There's a Wahlberg's eagle on the top and a vulture now to the right. So Wahlberg's up at the top, and I think maybe a hooded vulture. What they're doing is they're just finding thermals for now. I think most of the birds of prey are eager to be in the air, but with the weather we've had this morning without thermals, it's far too much energy to fly with, especially with wet wings. I wonder if it's worth taking a gander up Bateleur Road. There's a second vulture now, second hooded vulture. The thing is that they're probably leaving a perch rather than finding something now. They're just trying to get up into the air so that they can cover distance. They're trying to gain altitude. Might lose you going through the Mulwati River. We'll be out the other side. Four birds now. Two were flying, now there are four. Full of Wahlberg. Not fresh, but belly track. And Scott has to leave the old hyena den where quarantine mail is because we can't seem to get signal from there. Might have something to do with vegetation. The micro signal that we send out is somewhat dispersed, or rather it's absorbed by the amount of moisture in the leaves, especially the density of the trees now changes things. Hello, starling. Amanda in Alabama. Amanda wants to know what do I mean by thermals when we're talking about raptors flying. Thermals, Amanda, are what occur when warm air and cold air meet, and it's basically like a miniature tornado, but it's visible almost. Air turning, rising, and columns of air that almost invariably terminate in a cloud up above them, because they're warm air rising, they're bringing with it moisture that is evaporated off of the ground. Sorry. Oh, first one. It's this warm air that rises in sort of a circular motion. I think it's counterclockwise here in the southern hemisphere, clockwise in the northern hemisphere, due to the Coriolis effect, that allows the birds to fly without flapping their wings. Now, on a cold morning, there are, especially this morning, but there was no sun. There was cloud, and if anything, there was rain. Rain makes wings wet, makes it difficult for large birds to get aloft and stay aloft. It was fairly low cloud, it was a low ceiling that wasn't conducive to soaring. And the only way these birds can soar effortlessly is to rise or a glider, in fact, of these circular air currents. And you'd have to see birds soaring to know where the thermals are. What's the noise? Jigger never used to make no new noises. And I am on probably one of the bumpiest roads. Parrots. I hear parrots. Answering the squeaks of the jigger with squeaks of their own. Might be in a marula tree, but it's very dense crown. Find a green bird in a green tree. Good luck with that. Especially parrots that tend to be very secretive. Some of the little tracks. For some reason, jigger's just squeaking in every bump. Out the Q20. I'm thinking this may be Marco in Siberia, Djuma in Siberia. I'm not too sure who it is, but a question from Siberia wanting to know if there are any other animals that will eat on that carcass in the tree, well, there are. Or other leopards, of course. Not really a monitor lizard. Baboon might, if baboon had a little bit of a protein deficiency. Maybe genet, although I'm not too sure about whether a genet would really go for that. Definitely a lot of insects that would. They could. See what's happening on cheetah cutline. Oh, a lot of flies today. Let me think, what else might be there? Maybe an African wildcat. But there again, you know, speaking of animals that much prefer their own fresh kills, they're not as much scavengers as hyena and lion and leopard. What else? Bird making a lot of noise for some reasons. Been a herd of elephants here, but they've moved east. This was yesterday probably. Been rained on the track. The dung is flattened and spread out. Elephant track 2. Maybe we can find a pachyderm. It goes down later. Where's this one heading? It's heading south. Little black bird in the road. That is interesting. If we can, it doesn't fly away. We don't see him very often. A little bit of pink bill, pinkish legs. This is one of the widow finches. Black widow finch, steel blue. Up to. See if one of the birders can get me an answer there. Which widow finch are we looking at? Oh, steenbok. Hello, steenbok. Okay, they're now called indigo birds. I used to know them as widow finch. And there's an interesting francolin crossing the road. Oh, it's gone. So I think that would have been the black, because it had pinkish legs or reddish legs rather than the white legs. Let me see again. Yeah. definitely the red legs. That's what was known as the black widow finch, now known as the what indigo bird nowadays? See, I've got to learn all these new names. The dusky indigo bird. Not a common bird, also not very easy to see on account of them being little finches that tend to sit in the grasses, tend to remain hidden. See if we're going to have time to pop in at Buffelshoek Dam, see if there's anything at Buffelshoek Dam. It was early this morning. Battling with signal for Scott. That was just where he was, this poor signal. Sadly. Maybe these two brothers are in cahoots, they're communicating telepathically. They've got this arrangement that they're going to find them a place to lie down and a place to sleep where we can't see them. It was a nice idea though. It was, I think we briefly had a moment where we had got leopards. Hello Marcia in Kentucky. Hard striped jackal from yesterday, would they scavenge or would they eat fresh prey? A little bit of both. Jackal are also scavengers. Sadly they can't get into a tree as easily as cat can. Jackal can't get into a tree, period. But yes, jackal are scavengers and they will eat even somewhat rotten carcasses. They do hunt, they do very much. Anything from small mammals to young antelope. Day seems to be opening up nicely now. I think it's almost a given if we wake up and it's drizzling and spitting like it is, that it'll burn open by now, by mid-morning. I did think for a moment there, as we were coming in this morning, I thought it was pretty much closed for the day, but I think we're lucky enough that it's going to be a fantastic Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a fantastic Sunday afternoon this afternoon. Afternoon here in South Africa. I'm going to cut back to Scott shortly. So I think what we'll do is we'll see what Scott's up to for a while, and then we'll see what I can find you while you're with Scott for these last few minutes of the time. Bye for now. Enjoy the other vehicle.
Pressure.
Welcome back. And here we have two red-billed oxpeckers who, yes, are just sitting in this marula tree, but it's not just a marula tree. It's a marula tree that has provided a nesting site for them, and you'll notice a small hole below the individual on the left of the screen, and we saw the individual that's now on the right come out of that hole just a few seconds ago before you came to us. So they've obviously either got eggs in there or some chicks that they're tending to. Hard for us to tell. The oxpecker babies, as do a lot of the chicks, make a lot of noise begging for food, so maybe they're not born yet because we can't share any audio from inside that hole. I wonder what the animals they've been on today, these two oxpeckers. These are the birds that help the herbivores rid themselves of ectoparasites, mainly ticks. So these two could well have been off this morning on impala, buffalo, giraffe, who knows. But I'm sure they have already been out feeding and now they're just taking some time to relax. In terms of incubation, what message it's trying to put across, but it certainly is trying to give, you see that? Interesting. You see, maybe they're going to mate, who knows? No? Because those are certainly adults. One's just gone back to the entrance of the nest. Let's see if it goes inside. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we saw a chick poke its head out there? Such pretty birds, these red-billed oxpeckers. Bizarre coloration with that big yellow eye. So both sexes incubate in the oxpecker community, so both the male and the female will incubate the eggs. And they are monogamous, so these two are in a committed relationship with one another. Oh well, I think we may have had some good entertainment from them, and as you may have noticed, I do have something about birds and their nest sites, so I always do like to show you the different nests we find around the property. Okay, just a few minutes left. Kim's just asked how to differentiate between male and female oxpeckers, and to be honest, it's very difficult to tell. They both look identical. But what I will be able to tell you is that in the birding world, typically the females are larger than the males. So if you could work out that one of those two was bigger than the other, then that in all likelihood would have been the female. You would have noticed there's a tree across the road, hence our little diversion we're taking here. And just really incredible. This is quite a nice angle to show you. This would have been the work of an elephant. Usually the marula trees snap, but this one appeared to have, or snap above the ground, but this one appears to have snapped and pulled out some of the roots a little bit below the ground. I wonder who the culprit was that did this. Anyway, it is a necessary form of destruction. Without elephants in this area, we would have a thick forest, and it's the elephants as well as the other herbivores that all contribute to keeping this ecosystem as it is. And this fallen down tree will in time become a small microhabitat for other small animals also vital in the ecosystem. So there's a big log in the grass on the left that I'm trying to avoid. Okay. So just an update, we did leave quarantine. He was lying up in the shade. We know where we left him, and we'll certainly follow up from there this afternoon. But sadly we were having problems with the signal there, and we were also confident that he probably wasn't going to make a move anytime shortly, so we left quarantine lying up. And if we can find him this afternoon, that'll be wonderful, because like I said, he was looking very hungry, and a hungry leopard is one that often can provide good entertainment and action. So who knows, maybe we'll be watching quarantine hunting this afternoon. Well, there's just 2 minutes left, and I'd like to say a very big thank you for joining us. We've had a great morning, and I speak on behalf of myself and Mark. We both got to see a leopard, two brothers, and you got to see both of them, which is great. So really happy about that, and all the other little bits and pieces that happen along the way. They all contribute to the experience. And let's just hold thumbs that we don't get any rain from the clouds that are building. And weather permitting, we also have the fireside chat to look forward to this evening, so that is something to think about. But again, like I say, the weather could prove to be a problem there. Anyway, from myself and Brian, a big thank you, and a big thank you to Alex in control, and Mark and Vim, no doubt, also say their goodbyes and thanks for joining. So until this afternoon, when we will both be out again, both myself and Mark with Brian and Vim, have a good day or night, and we will see you later.